you see, if you look at Article 108, I have been very familiar with that article for a very long time because I also worked as a counsel and researcher for the Constitution Review Commission. And that article was one of the articles that we dealt with. For a very long time, there was no private member bill in our parliament because of that article. It was read to prohibit members of parliament, private members of parliament, to sponsor bills because what it actually says in brief, and I don't want to be too legalist right now for our listeners to understand exactly what that provision is saying. What the provision actually seeks to do is that we cannot allow any member of parliament to just come out with a bill that, if it is passed, will result in government spending so much money from the consolidated fund. It will not impose taxes because the private member of parliament cannot come out with a bill, and if the bill is passed, it will impose taxes on citizens, or it will cause government to spend money from consolidated fund and all. So they said it will impose a charge on the government. So if people who are interested can read Article 108 carefully, and so they are saying that, and the reason we understood for this provision is that, for instance, if the opposition, and I prefer to say opposition because now we have parliament that has equal number on both sides, and so there's no minority actually in the right side. There's other provision, opposition and the government side. If the opposition, and in the case where the opposition may even be more than they may be in majority in parliament, then if private members are allowed to sponsor bills, they may sponsor bills that is not part of government policy at all, and that is going to result in government having to look for money to spend. You see, so they want to make sure that every bill that is going to impose some kind of charge on the consolidated fund or on the government should be coming from government side. It should be coming from the Attorney General's office. That is what it is. That and it's been observed as such for a very long time until recently, when I think other school of thought says that provision should not be read to prohibit private member bills completely, and that is when private members began to sponsor bills, and so in actual fact, if they sponsor bills, my understanding also will be that if such bills are passed, it should not result in government having to look for money to spend or to impose taxes on citizens. Now, I read the memorandum that accompanied the suggestions made by the coalition, that's Mr. Koton Powell's group, and they have indicated this, and they have analyzed this a little bit, and they have gone on to say that that provision, the fact that that provision was read in recent times to mean that it did not prohibit private members from sponsoring bill, does not also mean that they have the right to sponsor any kind of a bill, because this bill, although and on the face of it, when it is passed, nobody expects that government is going to spend any money immediately. But they are saying that they have imposed duties on government, policing, investigations. So government is going to investigate, because it's only the police that can investigate criminal matters. And so government has to now spend money on investigations, has to spend money on prosecution, has to spend money even in keeping people in prison and all of that. So in effect, this bill, if it is passed into law, it is going to impose some charge on government. That is what they are saying. We cannot just ignore it and push it aside. We have to pay attention to it. And because I support this bill, and because I support the people who are the sponsors of the bill, I want them to pay attention to this. Because again, I have to be a little political here. I have been calling, and my learned friend Chio is aware of that I have been calling on our members of parliament who are sponsoring this bill to put their counterparts on the spot. Let's ask the NPP members of parliament to also speak to this bill. You see, they don't speak to this bill, and then yet you see our own members of parliament saying that, oh, it's bipartisan, or our friends at the other side, also support us. If you know the number of people who support us, but we want to hear them speak. We want to hear them speak. They are not speaking, and yet we are speaking for them, because Ghanaians would want to hear all of us, both sides of parliament, to speak. So I want even the minority caucus to own this bill, not to leave it only to the 7 sponsors of the bill. Own it. Minority leaders should address the press conference and let us know that the minority opposition side supports the bill, and then we push them at the the government side to tell us if they also support the bill. That is it. That's what I want. So I am saying that the coalition that is coming out against the bill now may want to seek legal redress. If they try to seek legal redress, and my idea is that look, all Ghanaians can understand that talking about it. The leadership as a group, they are not talking about it. Then it suggests to me that they are all against it. And so if the coalition that is fighting the bill now goes to court, for instance, if they go to court, perhaps they will be pushing the desire or the position of the government. And here we are here, our own people are talking for government, and so yeah, the NPP MPs also support them, they are not even putting them on the spot. And so how about if they go to court, and then the court rules in favor, because that's the position of government. I believe strongly that government does not support this legislation, and the opposition members as a party do not support it. Although as individuals, some of them may support it, but I believe as a party, they do not support it. And here we are not putting on the spot. If the coalition goes to court and they win a case to stop the legislation, it's going to be a big cover for government and all the NPP MPs, because they are going to say, fine. Oh, we supported it before, but it was stopped, and we didn't stop it. It was these people who went to stop it. So this is the time that our sponsors of the bill should put them on the spot. The people they are saying that they all support it, they should mention their names. Then those people should come out. In fact, I am saying that the minority leader and the minority caucus or the opposition caucus should own the bill. If they own the bill and they pledge support for the bill, then we call on Mr. Chairman Sabunsu also. They to come out, this side should come out and tell us whether they also support the bill, so that all Ghanaians should hear it. So that is it. So that the constitutional thing is the Article 108. Everybody can read it carefully and see that there may be an issue there that may be litigated. There may be, I don't know what's going to happen, but I will not be surprised if they pursue that.
But you believe that it will not be an issue if government essentially backs it?
Well, it still may be an issue, but if government backs it, well, we know how our courts also behave anyway. Look, our courts normally support government position, especially this particular government that is in the particular government now. Yeah, anything they take to court, they win, you know. So I am not too optimistic that if we take something to court and it's against the position of government, we shall prevail. I don't think so. They may win. So, but if government is going to be very symbolic, if government, although it's also possible that if government knows that the coalition is going to go to court and win the case, they may also pretend that they are backing the bill, and then they may come out now and say, oh yeah, we back it, knowing very well that it may be shut down by the court. But all the same, we still have to put them on the spot. We have to let them speak. Okay. Before anybody will make the move to go to court. I am not recommending that anybody should go to court, or I'm not saying they should go to court, but the hint was given by Mr. Kotoampao. And I'm saying that we cannot say that there's no ground. There's a ground that can be litigated because there's a little controversy there. And when there's a little controversy like that, that gives room to the court to go left or right. So once there's something the court can look at and the government has a position, why not? The court may just agree with the government's position and this whole bill will just be shut down. At that time, our people have already praised. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that point is well made. Let me jump to Jimega. There's the issue of the points that were made by Comrade Ahnija on the simple matters of the Ghanaian, who the Ghanaian is, what he believes in, and how this particular bill fits within that context. And secondly, on the issue of constitutionality, your views before we move on.
Yes, my senior has spoken about the Article 108. There is a bit of the Article 108 which talks about in the opinion of the person presiding. In the opinion of the person presiding, depending on how the Supreme Court looks at it, is it that just if the person feels a feeling that this is nothing or this should go through, or the opinion really means something that has to be tangible for the person or any reasonable person to defend. If he just leaves it at the basic, the plain meaning, constitutional interpretation, the first thing you do is you go for the plain and literal meaning, except that will lead to absurdity. So if you go for the plain meaning, and the plain meaning does not lead to absurdity, then you take it. But the provision says that Parliament shall not, unless the bill is introduced by or on behalf of the President. That is where Lawyer Lipo is saying, proceed on a bill including an amendment in the opinion of the person presiding, makes provision for the following: imposition of a charge on the consolidated fund or other public funds of Ghana. So in effect, we have a situation where if the bill is not introduced on behalf of the President, then we look at the opinion of the person presiding. If in the opinion of the person presiding, there is no charge, however, the fact is there is charge on the consolidated fund, then the opinion of the person might lead to a null and void situation. So you ask the question, what if the majority supports the bill? Even if the majority leader in Parliament supports the bill is not introduced by the President, or it is not introduced on behalf of the President. So the only time the bill can be introduced on behalf of the President is for the majority leader to take it to say, we are now introducing the bill. And that instance, you put it in their hands for them to introduce. But unless they are able to do that, then it means the bill can be shut down, as my senior has said. Now, Comrade Arulija was talking about us as Ghanaians, as our African identity. Look, Senna, can they, as he's saying, can they legalize polygamy? No, they'll not be willing to legalize polygamy. Why then do you want us to legalize homosexuality? LGBTQIA+. Every day there's something. Tomorrow I'm sure they'll be adding C to it. Whatever C will mean, don't ask me. I don't know, you don't know, but it's true. So the situation about our identity, and earlier on I talked about situation that our law, the Constitution, recognizes customary law, and our customary law frowns upon that, provided customary law is not inhumane, provided it is not one that will trample upon the right of a person. The customary law is held valid by law as the Constitution prescribes. So if it is our law that a man to a man shall not sleep, a woman to a woman shall not sleep, then the Constitution will hold it for us that it is a law. Now, my other problem is that currently we have a bill that is going on. Where are they going to curtail it? Because the Constitution says that Parliament shall not proceed with a bill. Where is the proceeding? Is it at the first stage, the second stage, the third stage? We don't know. So this will be something that we'll look at. But there is another point of law. It is right law that the courts shall not close its eyes on happenings in society. The courts shall not close its eyes on happenings in society. That is why you see that if there is rampant armed robbery and somebody is arrested and prosecuted for armed robbery and found guilty, he is given severe punishment so that it will deter others in society, because the court cannot close its eyes to happenings in society. So if the homosexuality or LGBTQI+A or A+, it is an issue in society, Supreme Court cannot close its eyes on it. The Supreme Court must find a way of addressing the situation if that is what the bill seeks to promote. So we are going to have a situation where I don't know whether it's going to be conflict of laws or conflict of morality or conflict of aspiration of the people versus the law. Because if Supreme Court, assuming these people go to court now to stop the bill, and Supreme Court decides that we are going to close our eyes on happenings in society, then we have a problem. And in situations where there is, let's say, excess armed robbery, there is drug use, etc., and people are arrested, the courts need to behave as if they never know that we have drug menace or we have armed robbery menace, and they should just give a slap on the wrist. So my advice here is that, look, we call it when we were young that kick the ball against your neighbor so that it will go to throw, and it will go to throw in your neighbor's name. So let NDC begin to do that. Let the minority begin to do that. Let them kick the ball against the NPP, as my senior said. Let minority kick the ball against the majority. Then the situation where they come on the table, then they say, you people carry the bill now. If you are really not afraid, go and host the bill. Let us see. If they are not able to do it, their constituents will punish them. But if we allow them, they will hide behind the courts and say, yes, we are going to do it. Of course, you must remember that the court is manned by unelected representatives of all of us. So that you cannot hold any of them accountable.